Hello and welcome to the Spooky Screen. My name is Steven and I am the host of this podcast, and with me are my co-hosts David, Noah, and Johnny. Nick is absent today and he has a very good excuse for not being with us today. He got married this past weekend and we both want to say congratulations to him and his
Congrats.
newlywed wife, Katrina.
You're the
Nick will
best.
be off for this week. We are looking forward to having him back for episode 8 and 9. But in the meantime, again, I want to say congratulations and we love you, Nick. So with that being said, today we'll be discussing the hit HBO show The Last of Us, created by Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann. This week we're covering episode 7, which is titled Left Behind, based off of DLC content from the Last of Us video game. If this is the first review you're watching, please go back to episode 1 and start from there as you make your way through the season. And for those who are joining us for the first time, public service announcement, this is your first and last spoiler alert. We will be breaking down episode 7 in detail, so please watch the show before you listen to or watch this review. So let's get into it. Noah, Dave, and Johnny, episode 7, thumbs up or thumbs down. Did you like this episode? That's like a solid 9, 10 o'clock like, which isn't as effusive as a 12 o'clock. Seems like we're all pretty much lukewarm on episode 7, Left Behind. Johnny, you want to start us off? What are one or two
If I
things
can get
about
my
this episode?
focus.
Yeah,
Come here.
get the camera focused.
This episode is good in its own right, but as episode 7 of a 9-part season, it was inappropriate, I think, in terms of timing and the scope it covered. And I think specifically it's because it tackles almost, I'll call it verbatim, which is not the right word, but it mimics exactly the same ideas in episode 3, a complex gay love story for an hour, which they knocked out of the park in the first one, and then they explored it again. And we didn't get the action, we didn't get the plot that they left us on the cliffhanger. And it felt like it was the same story again. So I felt like that was a little weak. Obviously, the character development with Ellie was fun, but I don't think it was necessary. So in that sense, I think it let me down a bit. And I was really waiting to see the plot move along, and I did not get to see that. So I think, unfortunately, despite me liking a lot of this, I felt let down and a little concerned about how we're going to get to a really conclusive ending, because it's feeling right now like we're going to be left with a weird cliffhanger that no one's going to be satisfied with.
Got it. So it's a bit of a retread, and you're afraid that it undercut its own momentum heading into episode 8 and 9.
Yeah. And I don't know what's coming, but I could just get the sense that we don't have enough time now to deal with what needs to happen to resolve this.
Things may feel rushed, odd pacing. Okay. Dave, what about you?
Yeah, I echo a lot of similar points to Johnny. The acting was really well done, and I always love when we get those little moments of Bella Ramsey as Ellie exploring the past world that she never grew up in, like whether it's she's like talking about pop culture or what it's like flying in an airplane or something like that, or how everyone loves carpenters, what are contractors, what Joel said last episode. And I thought that aspect of the episode was really well done. It was really fun as a viewer to watch, especially all of us growing up in the era of the malls and like being a mall rat. So that was fun, but just similar to kind of what Johnny's saying, it just took a lot of the momentum and anticipation that I wanted like released in this episode and expected in this episode. And it was just like, hold on, we got some really great character development that we're going to explore. I know you're on the edge of your seat, but just hold on for one more hour. And it just felt really misplaced. And I don't know, like you're saying, this is based on a DLC. I would have loved like 2-3 months down the line, like maybe a special web episode to like get me hyped for season 2 or something like that. I think that would have been really cool, and that they could have released this episode. But that's just
similar to like what a Euphoria did with the Christmas episodes. But yeah, I think Dave, what you're saying is like, again, kind of echoing what Johnny's saying. Momentum was kind of cut off, and it's almost as if the show was saying, "Hey, you have to eat your broccoli before you get your cake." You know, like we can't go to Joel and Ellie just yet. We need to explore her backstory.
Right.
Yeah. Noah, what about you? First of all, Noah, I love the sign, the neon sign. Like,
Yeah, that is super sweet.
what lovely soul got you that neon sign?
My wife.
Your wife
She was
is
so
amazing.
kind, and she redid my entire room while I was away.
And did she hang up that bike as well by herself?
She did.
What a
This
G.
bike is my grandfather's bike.
That's an
He
awesome
left
bike.
it to me.
Yeah.
I don't know how old
That's
it
like,
is, but
I mean,
It looks like a bike from the ET or something like that, or the Goonies.
it's pretty
Yeah.
cool. I love it.
it is pretty cool. Anyways, we're distracted. Yeah, give us your
When
thoughts.
when do our signs get here, Noah?
In the mail, so they should
Okay.
be arriving any
Great.
day now.
Great.
Just
Fantastic.
wait at the door, okay?
Who's it? What's
Yeah.
the time?
You got to sign
Hold
for
my breath.
Oh yeah. So, Last of Us, episode 7? Yeah, 7. It was a filler episode. Let's just be honest. Filler episode. It was a really, really good filler episode. It was beautiful to look at. Fantastic acting. A great character study. I'm happy we got to spend some time with Ellie bonding. But I do agree with my other co-hosts, Johnny and David, that it felt ill-timed and poorly placed and kind of killed the momentum of what was coming before it. And it reminds me a lot of the Stranger Things season 2 episode where 11 goes off and hangs with the psychic gang right after all this crap went down and Bob dies and all spoilers, sorry, but all this stuff happens and 11 just goes off and does this random off story with a bunch of characters, and it is a character study for herself, but it just kills momentum and not many people like that episode. This reminded me a lot of that. And I give it mid because it's a great filler episode, but my dislike is the fact that there's so much in my mind to cover. And for the first time in the season watching it, I'm afraid how they're going to handle it, how they're going to fit everything that's to come in for 2 episodes. And I'm worried it's going to feel rushed. And I'm trying to trust you, Craig Mazin, but it got a little hard today after this
a little
episode.
bit of a bumpy ride.
Yeah. A little bit of a bumpy ride. So
redundant ride and a redundant ride.
It was a redundant ride. Yeah, it rhymed a bit, with episode 3, and I think that's a fair criticism, Johnny. And adding my my 2 cents to the pile, it was a little bit frustrating to see them having to jump back into the past when I think they did a very successful job at hinting at what had happened to Ellie in previous episodes. Just being able to kind of piece together, it wasn't her first kill, that young boy in Kansas City. She, wasn't interested in boys. I think there were subtle breadcrumbs spread throughout the 6 episodes that preceded it. That I didn't really feel like we needed to see the DLC episode. And I think Dave had a great idea of just kind of releasing it as a stopgap between season 1 and 2, now that it's renewed for a second season. I really would have liked to have seen a little bit more meat on the bone when it comes to the main storyline. I think there was still a ton of material, just kind of speaking from a gamer's perspective without spoiling it for the non-gamers here. Like, there was just a ton of material that they could have covered, and no spoilers, Johnny.
No spoilers, Johnny.
Yeah, I just thought that it did undercut its momentum heading into the final 2-3 episodes, which typically as an audience you're primed to expect fireworks from, and I just don't think we got that with this one. So I thought it was a great episode. Solid character work. I thought that mall was fantastically designed, but ultimately unnecessary for the main storyline, which is Joel and Ellie. And I really would have liked the focus to have remained on those 2. I am wondering if maybe these final 2 episodes are like 80, 90 minutes long to make up for episode
For
7.
sure. It's
So
HBO.
They got to be like 2-hour episodes. I want
I
4
hope
hours
so.
of content, man.
I hope so.
Oh
Yeah.
God, I honestly think that's their only choice.
Yeah.
I
So
don't
That-
know.
yeah, so we're all lukewarm
Yeah.
for varying but similarly overlapping reasons, I think.
No, I was just gonna say, like, if you go back and watch our past reviews, when we reviewed episode 4, when they did the Henry and Sam arc, me and Johnny echoed a lot of these similar, like, hesitations, frustrations, like, are they actually going to be able to pull this off, not knowing the game's storyline? And they literally and figuratively killed it on episode 5. Like, they closed the storyline beautifully. There was a lot of character building, there was a lot of story movement, momentum, and that's what I wanted for this episode. And they just like, I don't know, dropped the ball.
You just yeah, go for it, Noah.
I have a
You got
hand
your hand
because I
raised.
want to
Yeah.
address that, David. If
Yes.
you remember back to that episode, you should watch that episode. If
It's
you
a good
haven't
episode.
already, we after that episode, Johnny, David, were frightened, right? They were unsure where things were going, and me, Steven, and Nick felt very comfortable. We weren't afraid. We were the gamers. We knew kind of where the pieces were being laid. To me, the biggest difference between that episode and this episode was that episode was all set up.
Right.
There was a bunch of setups, and we saw that it was laying the groundwork for what was to come, and we knew it was to come. I can confidently say there was no setups whatsoever in this episode, and that's part of the frustration around it.
I'll allude to a show from last year, Andor, which was one of my favorites, and I think that show did a really effective job of like developing these 3 to 4 episode arcs that told a story of the main character's journey from criminal to rebel leader. And I think if I felt like The Last of Us for the first 6 episodes was taking that similar structure, like they were arcing the journey of Joel and Ellie along with some of his side characters really effectively in like these 2 or 1 episode arcs. But this one really just kind of like came out of nowhere. It came out of left field, and I think that it didn't cohesively fit into the puzzle that is supposed to be season 1. And yeah, I just think that it kind of didn't have as much staying power as the 6 episodes before it. It's like hitting a home run 6 times and then you hit a double or a triple. And you're like, it could have been better, because it's been so great so far, I think. So yeah, let's break down episode 7 then in detail. And Johnny, Dave, Noah, you guys feel free to kind of jump in where you see little points of interest. But basically, episode 7 opens with Joel and Ellie posted up in an abandoned house. Joel is suffering from a bleeding stab wound in his abdomen. Ellie is trying to stay with him, but Joel brusquely pushes her away and tells her to leave, go back up north and find Tommy, and to essentially leave him behind to die. And as Ellie considers this order from Joel, we now flash back to her past, where she's enrolled in Fedra school. She's running laps. She's getting bullied by Bethany. We all hate Bethany. And she
Bethany.
basically is missing her Fedra roommate who had run away 3 weeks earlier, Riley, who that very night comes sneaking back into her dorm room and invites her on a journey out. And so they leave. So these two arrive
Did
at
you
a
mention
strip mall.
Kwong, Steven?
Yeah, you want me to mention him?
Yes.
I think he's important. I
Okay.
do.
Yeah. So before Riley arrives in the dorm room, we have a meeting between Ellie and Principal Kwong, who's head of the Fedra school.
Captain Kwong.
Captain Kwong. Yeah. And he
Respect.
basically puts a mug and a set of keys in front of Ellie and says, these are your 2 life paths. One is to become basically a peon in the quarantine zone who gets ordered around and cleans sewers every day. And the other option is to study hard in Fedra school, graduate with top honors, major in sewage cleaning, and be able to order other people around as a Fedra officer, eating 3 square meals a day, having your own room to yourself and being able to just enjoy life.
And
Ellie,
I think it was interesting to hear Fedra's idea that they bring order to the world. Without them, there's chaos, and there's something to be said about that. It's again the grayness of the world. I thought that was interesting, and I just want to add, I actually thought that this episode was going to lean into the Captain Kwong relationship with her, and I actually was kind of excited, and then it didn't happen.
he just showed up for one scene and never reappeared again. Yeah. And Ellie, at the end of that presentation, basically says, "I'll take the keys." She wants to become an officer. She'll study hard. She'll obey. And then Riley comes and says, "Hey, let's run away for the night." And she's like, "Yep." So basically, they hop, skip, jump over a couple of rooftops and make their way to a strip mall.
It's not a strip mall, but
Is it not a strip
It's
mall?
like
it's
like
like
a
a very
full-on
long
mall.
It's a very long mall.
Strip
Isn't
mall
that
is like outside
Yeah, strip
parking
mall-
lot.
a strip mall is like
I'm
a
thinking
motel.
yeah,
you know, a
you're
strip
right.
motel of malls.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
a mega mall.
Has an indoor. It's like a hotel. You got to go inside.
All right. The local architect schooling my ass. I deserved it. So at the mall,
Meet me at the mall. Okay.
Ellie and
Going
Riley,
down.
In the bathroom stall.
Ellie and Riley pretty much have like a perfect day, other than like not being able to eat like Wetzel's pretzels. Like they hit up the carousel.
Oh, Auntie M's pretzels.
I'm a Wetzel's pretzels kind of guy, so I
I'm
mean,
leaving.
we're gonna take this outside. They hit up a photo booth. They play Mortal Kombat at an arcade. Riley
They ride an escalator.
They ride an escalator,
The liquor stage.
which was an underrated scene. I think that was one of my favorite.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
And
It's
Riley
better than
gives
the
her
carousel.
Riley gives her a book, no pun intended, Volume 2, and they dance while wearing Halloween masks.
Can we back up to that Mortal Kombat arcade?
Sure, yeah.
I mean, correct me if
3-1.
I'm wrong in the comments, but I just believe it is physically impossible to learn how to do a fatality on a Mortal Kombat 2 arcade machine if you've never played it before. I don't care how many quarters you have. That is impossible. That was the most unbelievable part of the episode. The fact that she could do a fatality and then teach Ellie to do the fatality is not possible. It's not.
Took
They
me
had a
out
lot of quarters
completely.
though.
I don't care. I don't care.
Like,
You know how many times I tried to do that as a kid? That is like the holy grail to get a fatality on your friend, and you just nope.
Listen, girl was building pipe bombs in the back.
Okay,
of,
maybe that's the
Chinese restaurant.
prerequisite.
She needed to release some steam. She probably took it out on that Mortal Kombat machine.
Did you guys
comment below if you believe that she could do that, because it's not possible. I don't care.
Did you guys notice that the fatality scene is the scene that wakes up the infected?
Oh.
Fatality.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
Smashing the buttons.
That's clever.
And yelling.
Yeah.
And it wakes them up. It was actually an interesting foreshadowing.
That is clever. Yeah, I like that. By the way, who is everyone's go-to Mortal Kombat character here?
Sub-Zero.
Yeah, Sub-Zero.
I would just Scorpion or Reptile was always my go-to.
Yeah, mine was Scorpion. So.
Or for the real fans, Nob Sabat or Nob Saboot.
Noob Sabat, David.
Yeah, Noob Sabat.
Boobs a lot.
Boobs a lot.
Who's the girl with the blue outfit?
Katana.
Melina?
Katana.
You mean the girl that she was? Oh.
Yeah, Katana. Yeah.
You know what was really cool when they turn on the lights? Just speaking about like what we liked about the episode, when she turns on all the lights, it did feel like they were in some sort of like they were the archaeologists that first were in like the pyramids, like the Pharaoh's pyramids. It was just like, and you just like, they felt so small, and they did a really great job of just capturing the newness and like amazement of like exploring this old dead world. It was really cool. That was a cool scene.
Reminded me of Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
the lights, because I don't really know if lights would do that in that world. It was very theatrical. Yeah, it was like doom, 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 doom. All bays lighting up. That was great. I don't believe that they were not visible. Like, I think you would definitely see the light.
All the sounds going on. Yeah.
Anyway,
but
proceed.
Suspend our disbelief, for the sake of entertainment.
It's worth it.
Yeah. So, and Dave, I love that word archaeological because Ellie had the posters of Mortal Kombat in her dorm room, and it was just
Mhm.
like she was experiencing a slice of life that she had never been uh, exposed to in the past because she grew up in the midst of this global, pandemic. So
Well, and like as a character for like the last 6 episodes, she's always been like super inquisitive, which is like a really fun aspect
yeah,
of her character. Like she's always picking at Joel about like, oh, did they really do this back in the day, or like, what was it like to like fly in an airplane? And you, when you saw her dorm room, you really got an aspect of she's a character who is really trying to understand this world that she's been dropped into, and then kind of almost finding like a holy grail type archaeological site like a mall, which we take for granted as like a modern day human. It was fun. That was a fun aspect of the episode.
I think all of us have said it. Like the character building was great,
Yeah.
and we have our feelings about this episode as a whole, but you can't deny that they did some good character work in this episode. Ultimately, so
Yeah, like
yeah,
if the show had a lot more episodes ahead of it, like let's say there was 12 episodes
12.
in the season.
One more episode is all they
I'm
need,
just
in my
saying,
opinion.
all I'm
One
saying
more.
is as long as you knew that there
Another
was
one.
only 2 left, this wouldn't have felt so deflating, but
Yeah,
you know that they have to wrap up this plot in 2 episodes, and that feels like this is a little frustrating because you're
yeah,
like, okay, that's
because you want to
we're
enjoy
approaching
it,
the end of the season.
right?
Like this is
Yeah,
what 7 is.
you want to enjoy
Yeah,
it, Johnny, right?
yeah.
But you're like, oh gosh, you're like looking at your watch, and you're like, are we really
And
doing this right now?
the most important thing I have to say, and I think I didn't say it before, is that this is a prequel. You know
Yeah,
that she gets bit because of the season. You know that someone that she cares about dies here. You know that she has interest in girls because of the foreshadowing and comments. Like all of this was communicated. So this was just indulgence. David, I think you said that word before. It's like an indulgence in an idea about telling the story, but it was really, unnecessary at this point.
yeah.
And you knew the whole time. You're just saying, when does she get bit? Like that's all I thought about the entire time, because that's what happens.
Some would call that keeping you in suspense. But anyways,
Yeah.
but
Suspense, frustration.
yeah, what ends up happening here is as they're having their wonderful night out together, Riley reveals the truth behind why she invited Ellie out to the mall, and that's the fact that she's being shipped down to Atlanta QZ the very next day. And also, surprise, surprise, she's building bombs for them. Yeah.
As a non-gamer, I don't have the comprehension of this world like you guys. So let me ask 2 questions. Why does the Fireflies need a 16-year-old girl to be transported to an Atlanta QZ? What skill set is she bringing that they need to transport her there?
I love that you asked this, Johnny, because I did a deep dive.
Okay.
And in episode 1, when Joel was trading pills with that federal officer,
Mm-hmm.
he says that down in Atlanta QZ, they build 2 things: bullets and pills, pills and bullets. Fast forward to episode 7 with Riley, we know that she's good at sneaking around. We know that she's good at smuggling things in and out. So people on the internet were saying that she was being sent down to Atlanta QZ to be a smuggler for the Fireflies, to smuggle pills.
I'm satisfied with that.
Yeah. I love the internet. Love how they're a render farm for this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Because I felt frustrated by that in the moment, but I knew there's got to be a good reason.
Yeah. So that felt satisfying enough for me to kind of as the reason for why Riley was being sent down there. Anyways, yeah, she's building bombs for them, and Ellie's like, "What the hell is going on?" She's pissed. She angrily leaves the mall.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And I think it's important to note that, that's why I want you to bring up Kwong in the beginning, right? This is where Ellie and Riley have a deep difference in ideology, right? In the whole episode, they're kind of going back and forth. They have fun, and then they argue about their different ideologies. And it's something that Neil Druckmann does a lot, in my opinion. Like he pits 2 characters that have a deep love for each other against each other because of the world they live in, right? Because Ellie believes that Fedra is order, and Riley represents more freedom, anarchy, where they have two opposing viewpoints, but in the end, what do? They say, screw it, we're in this together, and that's what's important. And I don't know, that was if you were going to ask me what my favorite part of the episode, that would be it. It was the fact that, in this screwed up apocalyptic world where two different factions are telling them they're right, we're what's going to save the world, these two people kind of found what was most important. Even though it didn't end well for them, that wasn't really their fault. I mean, it kind of their fault. They played Mortal Kombat, but whatever. In the end, that was what was most important, right? The fact that they were together and they shared that love instead of building bombs or becoming officers to boss the Bethanies around. So I did like that part of the episode.
But
Johnny,
they only
tell me.
did that and or realize that after they were doomed to death.
Yeah. So
no, I think it was before, wasn't it?
They did right. So let me kind of outline it for you. The scene.
I guess.
I think it was before.
So Ellie was
Yeah,
leaving Riley angrily, and
that's true. Yeah, they made peace. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, we flip over to
on the glass table, like.
Yeah, they're dancing
like this.
Very awkwardly. I love how they're committed to. I feel like there was another sequence in this.
I love how tiny she is
dancing. Yeah, she's so much shorter than Riley, right? When they were like, yeah, Riley beats the crap out of Bethany, you were like, oh, I totally get why. She's huge. So Ellie leaves after discovering the bombs and that Riley's being sent down to Atlanta QZ. We flip over to the American Doll store where an infected runner awakens. However, Ellie, in the midst of leaving, changes her mind, returns back to Riley, and there they eventually share a kiss together. Ellie makes her true feelings about Riley known. Riley reciprocates, and Ellie asks her to stay in Boston, and Riley, kind of overwhelmed with her emotions for Ellie, agrees to do so. And so they kind of bask in that moment of bliss until the infected, of course, crashes in on their love fest, attacks both of them, bites both girls, and then gets killed by Ellie and Riley.
Can I just say
the beauty and the bleakness?
Yeah. Can I just say that infected was giving me major Pirates of the Caribbean 2 vibes?
I want to revision history.
Okay.
The infected is panned to and woken up during the Mortal Kombat scene, which is a good 20 or 30 minutes before the dance scene. So you're actually like waiting for a long time for that reveal. You don't know if the infected is there waiting for Ellie by herself. You don't know if it's going to jump for them in the Mortal Kombat. Like, you really don't know for a long time. I just want to say, because I think that matters. Like, that was part of the pacing and intense. And I know what you're saying. It was anticipation or suspense.
Yeah, no, it's called Hitchcock suspense, where he's like, if you have a scene where two people are drinking tea and then suddenly the table explodes, you didn't really anticipate that happening. But if you have a scene before these two individuals meet to have tea, where someone slides a box with a bomb inside it underneath the table, and then these two people come and sit and have tea, the entire time you're thinking about when this bomb is going to go off. So
I think it's called dramatic irony.
Well, I mean, it was effective, but it was distracting because they had this whole like love sequence, and you're like, where's the plot? Like, that's all I was thinking about, because like you already know she got bit, so you're like, it's just frustrating.
It was a bit of a love fest, and the thriller aspect felt kind of misplaced.
No, I was just gonna say, and this is something that you guys brought up on episode 2 that was going to be a plot hole that you were like worried about. Was I thought they were setting up the climax of this episode, and maybe like when Riley gets killed and Ellie gets bitten, as all of the infected are connected, right? So when that guy woke up, I thought the end of the episode was going to be like the mall just like vibrating with like a horde of infected, and that was going to be like our climactic action.
Well, it's funny you say that, Dave, because the DLC you deal with a horde. You don't deal with a single infected individual.
Oh, see, that would have been so cool.
It would have made more sense with this world building they did. You know, they made this whole root thing, and it was clearly he was like attached to a root system.
Yeah.
So it felt a little inauthentic.
They wanted to feel a little bit more intimate, which again kind of goes back to the idea of like us being like they're going to be a little bit inconsistent about this root system. You know what I mean? So let's quickly close out this episode plot. So basically, they both get bit by the infected, and the girls remain with each other as they mull the options. They could take the easy way out. They could stay together and lose their minds to this virus. And Riley basically tells Ellie that it's important to stay together for whatever last moments you can have with loved ones. With that being said, we flash forward back to the present day where Ellie is standing outside of the garage door, about to leave to go up north back to Tommy and leave Joel to die. And she refuses to let him go. So she does what video game Ellie would do, and scavenges the entire place until she comes up with a spool and thread, comes back to Joel and stitches him back up as she holds his hand and tells him that she's not leaving him behind. And he nods and accepts this as her final decision. And thus we conclude episode 7, Left Behind. That being said, let's go to our favorite part of the episode review if we don't have anything else to talk about. Conspiracy theories. Well, Dave,
or
throw back to
theories
last week. I have to give you an A-. You said that Ellie needs to go out on her own with Joel incapacitated. I feel like you've pretty much gotten that right on the mark. I forget, Johnny, what your theory was, but I have to give Dave.
I said like all.
Johnny said Tommy was going to come. Tommy followed them and is going to pick up the like a relay race.
F.
I actually thought I
For now. F for now. So
F minus.
maybe it'll happen in episode 8. Maybe it
I
won't.
still don't know. Did
I,
she get him up on the horse or did she drag him there? It looked like she dragged him.
I think
there,
it looked like
a
they
mattress or
dragged.
something.
Yeah,
I have to
had those
abstain
drag
from
marks.
this section.
Yeah.
Why you
You're
got
not gonna give us a theory?
No, because I saw the previews.
Did they give that much away?
Enough away?
Yeah.
I can't make a conspiracy guess.
Why would you watch it, you little jerk
Because
face?
my wife likes to watch them. So.
Close your eyes.
Usually
Shut
Adeline
your
just
ears.
just reads all the spoilers.
This is
before she
this
watches
is the wife that spoils movies for herself before she goes.
all
to
of her
see
So
wives.
she knows how it's going to end then.
it. I think so.
She's probably
She doesn't
writing
know.
synopsis.
She didn't know this episode's results. So
Yeah.
probably because it wasn't part of the plot.
Steven, did you watch the preview?
No, I didn't watch the preview, but I know like the video game. So
You know the generalness.
yeah, I know the general.
I still don't know if that's going to happen, but
I know who
I
the
would
next
say-
characters are at least.
Okay.
I would say this is my theory, and I'm gonna try to lock it in for the next 2 episodes. And I'm not gonna be wishy-washy about it. This is like a finite theory. I think the suturing of the wound is a band-aid. Like I'm sure Joel is still dying from internal bleeding, so I think maybe Joel gets enough energy to get Ellie somewhere. They don't go back north to the convent or commune. They're not nuns. So they keep going. They keep going towards Utah, and I'm gonna say maybe the last episode we meet a character that they're gonna trust, like who's a Firefly.
Mm.
Joel dies, and Ellie has to go with this uncertain person, and we're left like, does she make it or does she not make it? I don't know if
So
that's like
the season ends on a cliffhanger. Is that what you're saying?
I think this season sets up with season 2 is Ellie is alone and afraid, trying to continue on this like journey that Marlene has set her up for with like a what is it when you can't trust the narrator?
Unreliable narrator.
Unreliable narrator. I'm from New Jersey. We talk about
Unreliable.
hands. Unreliable guide, like saying I'm going to take you to Utah, but maybe they're not a Firefly. I don't know.
I like where David's going, where he's just trying to conclude the season. So that I think maybe I can give a guess towards without.
Okay.
I still think Tommy shows up. because I feel like the way they introduced him and his loyalty to his brother, it would be a waste of a relationship to not bring him back. I could be wrong. They've done that before. And I think there's going to be... I'm hoping there's at least 2... I think that I know there's another bump coming. Like whatever that is. I don't want to say anything for David especially. I don't want to tell you guys what it is. But I think there's at least 2 more sequences. I think each episode has to cover it. I hope they do. And I think that the last one, I don't think Joel dies. I think they make it. And I think, and I hope that they are stuck out in the wilderness, kind of without clarity of what's next. Like they're deflated because they find out the Firefly thing's not going to work, and then you're going to kind of be like, this whole world of theirs is theirs to figure out. I don't know if that'll be satisfying, but that's what I think is.
Wow, you guys are going for the vague endings.
Nothing
ambiguous. Very ambiguous.
I feel like this show introduces completely random things every episode, like things that you would have you can't predict. It's like they haven't built up any idea what it could be. I know they're going to introduce new characters. I have no idea who they are. I know it's coming, so I don't know what it is.
You know what I don't want, but I think they could do something cool with, is I don't want
dragons.
Season 2. No, dragons would be cool. Mushroom dragons. Now, from what Johnny's saying, is I feel like Season 2 is going to be like a rescue arc. I think Ellie's going to get kidnapped by somebody.
Guys, don't worry your pretty little heads about Season 2. Yeah.
Listen, what if Joel harnesses the power of the infected like a Super Saiyan?
All right.
This is not an anime.
And you just watch his muscles just get like beefy and he's like all infected.
I want to ask my fellow gamer something. Do you think they're going to be able to pull off this next 2 episodes? If they're following the game, can you confidently believe that they have enough time to do it in a satisfactory way, or are they going to cut heaps off?
Only if so the final sequence of the game is actually a lot shorter than you think it is.
I'm not worried about that.
It's only a long mission, but
how long is it?
It's quite long because it's like it's like the final level. You know what I mean? So just think about it like in those terms.
Zombie boss? We talking about a zombie boss?
I'm not
going to
give you anything. But
the hive mind.
I think they would need like full 60-70 minute episodes to really, really close us out in a satisfying manner.
Is it the Truman Show?
It's a simulation.
Could you imagine?
It's all a military simulation.
If this is like Aliens at the end, I'm gonna be annoyed. It's like biochemical warfare where aliens dropped like a fungus.
Do you think me, Steven, and Nick would call it a masterpiece if that happened?
Definitely. You bad taste.
Broke with terrible taste. All right, let's close this out. Episode 7 is now officially in the books. Thank you to my hosts, Johnny, Dave, and Noah, for being here talking through this episode. It's crazy to kind of think that we're all on the same page about this episode, which was a nice little surprise.
Never happens.
At the end of the day, I think we appreciate the artistry of episode 7. There's a lot of good things to like, but there was more concern coming out of the episode watch than there was enjoyment and immersion. So, we'll see what happens with episode 8 and 9. I think, one small dink here doesn't mean that it's going to be a complete miss, but we await these final 2 episodes with bated breath. Why? Is the word dink weird?
Yeah, I thought you were going to say, just because there's a dink here, it doesn't mean there won't be a doink over there.
Oh, I should have said that.
I don't know if those have other meanings. So
I love the word doink. It's a great word.
Dink over here.
You might want to Urban Dictionary that.
I might, yeah.
Doink.
Anyways, don't forget to sub to our channel, leave comments, like our videos, write handwritten letters, or send telegrams, whatever.
Tell us that you hate us. Whatever.
We love that.
Churn the engagement algorithm.
What was your best fatality in Mortal Kombat?
Shout out we want to shout out Nick and Katrina again, congratulating them on their wedding this past weekend. We love you guys.
Wait, that's not
And we look forward to having him back yelling at us about episode 8 and 9 on this recording. So
do we think Nick liked this episode quickly?
I don't think he liked this episode.
Nah, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think,
Just
you
saying.
know, Nick, it's DLC
Taking bets.
content, and like he's a purist, you know.
He's worried about the pacing too. I
He's
know.
gonna
I
be
got
like,
you,
"I
Nick.
want-
You worried
I
about
want-
the pacing. I got you.
But we can ask him when he's back on
Yeah,
the
we'll do-
airwaves for episode 8.
Yeah,
So
we'll do a little recap for him on
Yeah.
quick. See what he thought.
yeah, so we'll see you guys for episode 8 of The Last of Us next week. Thanks for tuning into Spooky Screen. Peace out, y'all.